Hi, I'm Phil Coutu, here for Insurance Claims Radio. I've got Chip from Chip's Roofing sitting to the right of me, and Mike from Pro Roof Solutions. We're starting, this is our third show, and we're going to start up with the topic of direct physical damage, and we're going to talk a lot about cosmetic damage. I'm going to open up. In your insurance policy, the term direct physical loss, it's not really disputed. However, there's contradictions when they bring in cosmetic exclusions and what they are. They're often not well defined in the policy, and they're often ambiguous and in conflict with the term direct physical loss. So what we've found in the industry, we're walking on, and a big concern is with churches. I've found this, I've had many churches of recently where they have this cosmetic exclusion. So these people had really big hail. Or this consumer of mine, I'm going to talk about a job I just have going on now, has baseball-sized hail to their entire church. The entire roof's, I'm going to guess, about 450 squares. And I'm looking at this going, how did they not pay for anything? And so they completely excluded all damage on this church for baseball hail. Now, the baseball hail came in a little bit slightly at an angle. The bigger the hail, generally the more straight it falls down unless there's like really big winds with it. So we had one side of the building damaged. We had fences damaged, air conditioning units damaged, light poles. And so their cosmetic exclusion only applied to the roof coverings, and basically the vents on the roof. And I'm looking at this, and the first thing I realized is, without writing my estimate, there's got to be 150 to 180, maybe as much as $200,000 damage to property that's not part of the roof. Yet, they went and excluded the entire claim on this policy. And so this particular insurance company, I was like, this is fascinating. So I spoke to the pastor and some of the people. They're like, oh, Phil, yeah, we're not hiring anybody. One of my guys had actually door knocked it and said, no, we're not hiring anybody because we don't have coverage. And so my guy out there is like, well, what do you mean you don't have coverage? Oh, we got a cosmetic damage exclusion for the roof. Well, can I see your policy? Can I see your estimate? And he informed me, said, well, I think we need to get Philip out here to take a second look at this because I think you do have coverage. And we're reading the cosmetic exclusion, and it's written poorly, and it's in conflict with other policy language. And so we went out there. And here's what ended up happening, and this one actually is gone to lawsuit. As recently as a few weeks ago, they have rolled over, and they're actually going to pay for the entire roof. So for our listeners out there that have commercial properties or even residential metal roofs, we have a cosmetic roof exclusion. And they're trying to define the cosmetic roof exclusion. Well, the metal has to actually be ripped. And so we challenge that. Is that true? You've got baseball hail. Is that true? Your cosmetic roof exclusion covers baseball hail. What do you guys say to that?
I say if it hit a seam, that means it's functional. If it's damaged any seam on that roof, if it's damaged any pipe flashing on that roof, if it's damaged a ridge cap on that roof, it has made that roof unusable.
How about the coating of the roof?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a 45-year paint warranty on the roof, and if you've dented that roof, water sits where that coating is not, you are going to get rust.
Okay, so these are the things that we want to talk to you here. Is you've got these exclusions written to limit coverage, but maybe you do have coverage.
I got one more, the wood shake roof. They're coming up with exclusions on the wood shake roof now too, where everything's ACV or actual cash value, and since we need somebody to actually look at the policy and see if those are proper too.
And our roofer's allowed to look at policies.
We're not. No. But your plumber is, your lawn guy is, any other contractor on the planet is allowed to look at your policy but the roofer.
But how can that be in the great United States of America?
Because the roofer was winning too many claims against him, so they passed a law against us.
So those are topics that we'll talk. So there's a law out there, and I'll let Chip quote the statute, but where technically the roofer's not supposed to speak coverage because the roofer is not a licensed adjuster or public adjuster.
So talk to the pool guy because he can do it.
Yeah. So you got these, and the thing is that really true? Like, you challenge that, and constitutionally, is that true? These are challenges. The problem with that is that a consumer friendly for the state to pass something like that in the essence of protecting the public? Is that a consumer friendly policy?
I would have to say no. I mean, when they were doing this at the legislature, I was there for 3 months fighting this, and there was quite a bit of insurance lobbyists around every legislature I talked to.
And Chip, let me ask you some more about that. Let me ask you, was there public adjusters down there that were pushing that legislation as well?
There was.
Now, I hate to get off topic, but this is really of interest to me. A couple very prominent public adjusters with very little contracting experience, and you can go look it up, were pushing that legislation. And there was a reason. I spoke to one of those public adjusters. I won't say his name on air, though I'm dying to. He actually wanted me to commit money to that bill. And he said to me, Phil, well, you're really smart. You're an abomination in this industry, an anomaly or something like that. I'm like, okay. So I almost just said his name there. I said, so he goes, well, you can at least put in 50 grand. I said, no, I'm not gonna. I said, why? I will not. I am a roofer and I'm a public adjuster. I know you're just a public adjuster. I know you're one of the prominent heads of one of the prominent associations. However, are you doing a lot of residential claims? No, I've been doing this 27 years, blah, 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 right? And I said, okay, great. So you're not doing residential claims, so it's really going to hurt residential clients. So what happens if your roofer misses some contents, but he goes, wins your roof, and gets you an extra $15,000? If you're going to prohibit the roofer from fighting and help get that covered, you're only hurting the consumer. And this is just another way how some of these prominent, vocal people with notoriety out there do not truly have the consumer's best interest. I said, I'm a roofer, and I know a lot of roofers, and 15, 20 years ago, when I didn't have the experience I have now, I was still out there fighting on commercial roofs. I mean, actually residential roofs, sorry, back in the day. And I was fighting on these residential roofs, and I was winning them for my client because they only got like $3,000 repair or a shake repair or a shingle repair. And so I would go in with way less knowledge 20, 25 years ago and win these roofs. I get them an extra 15, 18, 30 grand, win their siding. I'm like, how is that not helping the consumer?
Well, because 20, 25 years ago, there was more common sense than there is now.
Yes. The PC movement hadn't taken over.
Phil, I was touching base. I was out with a home the other day where they had a metal roof, and the metal roof had definitely big dings in it, right? The hell, it really smacked it. The adjuster that was out there said, hey, Mike, I hate to tell you this, but there's no damage. This is just there's no direct physical damage. It's just a cosmetic type of a situation. And so, but if you looked at the hell when it hit it, I mean, the water that was in the bottom of there where the hell hit, it was starting to rust. It was not a matter of it being a cosmetic. It's going to go all the way through that metal. So, I mean, that's the type of things that we have to look at and to listen to and to get them to, overcome that and get them to buy it.
The funny thing is that the gutter right behind it, if it had right under it, that's attached to that metal roof, if it had the same hail damage, it's gone. So
right. And why is that? Because they haven't written into the cosmetic roof exclusion yet. However, I just had one come up in the last 8 months that has a complete exterior cosmetic exclusion. So, it's really fascinating because we've got all this capping deck rails and on the walls and siding, and it's got a cosmetic exterior exclusion. And I didn't believe the adjuster at first. I'd never seen one. I'm like, this can't be. Oh, we started bringing them in 2 years ago. I'm like, great. So I've got all these huge dents right at eye level on my building. You're not going to cover me? He goes, nope. And I said, you know what I said? I said, well, my name's Phil Coutu. We'll see about that.
I think that all the homeowners now need to start buying car policies for their house because at least they can get their metal roof PDR'd.
So right now I've got a claim. They would not cover it. We tried to get a tolling agreement. They would not extend coverage. Our 2-year statute of limitations was coming up from the claim date, and I had to put that one. Call a prominent attorney and get that into litigation to protect the client. And I'll tell you right now, I'll keep the viewers abreast how that's going to go. I do expect to win it. We don't play to lose here, anybody at this table. And it's basically, I read the policy, the way the policy is written, my interpretation and many legal minds is like there is coverage for that. And we're going to have to fight it and bring in experts. Is it costly? Yes. It's something that often I personally will fund if I believe in the claim for my policyholder. It's on a claims by claims basis, but when you get really big hail and it whacks the whole side of your building and, you know, people are buying these policies and they don't know. And you really want to try to buy the better coverage because then you don't have to have this dispute and spend the money trying to fight it.
Right. I mean, if you're saving $40 a year to get rid of like code upgrade coverage, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars.
Right. That's a super important thing.
Yeah.
Look at your house. Is it an older building? You're going to have lots of code upgrade.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, why would you have cosmetic exclusion if you have a metal roof?
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make sense, does it, guys?
You need to be telling your agent every time, I want the best policy. It's not going to cost you that much more, but it's going to save your butt in a problem.
Hey, Phil, let's talk about estimates on claims next show.
All right. After the break, we're coming back. I'm Phil with RoofTopRoofing.com. Sitting here with Mike with Pro Roof and Chips Roofing. Do you have a commercial hail claim, troubled hail claim, underpaid claim, missed damages, bad faith, possible legal action? Rooftop Restoration is a leading hail loss consumer advocate for poorly handled insurance claims. We specialize in hail damage, large commercial claims, and provide the total claims package risk-free. We pay and cover all expert costs, engineers, attorneys, roof inspectors, adjusters. We get you what you deserve under your insurance policy. Finance large deductibles, all the experts, experience, and stellar reputation with zero out-of-pocket costs. Risk-free. Call or text Rooftop Restoration at 720-296-3492. Call or text at 720-296-3492. That's 720-296-3492. And check us out at rooftoprestoration.com. Hi, I'm Phil with Insurance Claims Radio. We're speaking about hail damage today. One of our main topics is cosmetic damage. I'm here with Mike, Pro Roof Solutions, and Chip with Chips Roofing. And so, Mike, you wanted to get into a topic.
Yeah, Phil, I was going to talk about estimates. When people call an adjuster out and they look at the home and they're going to give them an estimate on what that damage that has occurred. And so, a lot of the residential people out there, even the commercial, don't understand, what an estimate is. And it's just an estimate, basically, right? And it's our job to be able to prove to the insurance company that there is much more damage, whether it be, a roof, a mailbox, a fence, it could be a garage door, lots of different situations it could be. And so maybe, Phil, you could tell them about estimates and insurance and why. We have a situation right now on a commercial one where it came in at 183 and we're at 863. And how can we get hundreds of thousands of dollars difference, or on a residential comes in at 15 and we're at 28?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. It's all in the eye of the beholder. I've had claims that are zero. I've fought with several claims here right in Colorado where it's been zero, and I've settled them for millions of dollars. It takes a lot of experience, and a lot of times, lighter damages, the insurance company just wants to say basically that's no damage. There are good adjusters out there, and there are honest adjusters out there. Often they're the more older, seasoned guys that have been around the block that really know what insurance law is. Somebody can come out and they can look at your roof, and they can just say there's basically no damage, or the way they're doing. There's kind of a 6 hit per square rule on a shingle roof. And a lot of times, though, it's how do you define that hit? Oh, I've been against some of the biggest, most famous engineering companies. They'll sit there and argue with me. Oh, it's a nick to the shingle. That doesn't count. I'm like, yeah, but it was done by the hail. The policy. Oh, we don't get into policy, Phil. But our guidelines, it has to be a severe bruising or break the felt or the backing of the shingle. I'll be, guys, but I know you're the engineer. Oh, we're not allowed to talk policy. I said, well, that's maybe the problem. And the first thing I'll do is get on my email and ask them, hey, are you allowed to discuss policy? The policy says there's direct physical damage. I know that you're saying that this isn't a true hail hit as per your definition, but can you please give me your definition of a hail hit and compare it to the definition of the policy? And that opens up Pandora's box for them, those kind of statements. One of the things that a lot of people have commented on that, what I do, and I did this when I was on the insurance side as well, is I ask questions. Because it's fascinating. You think you know the answer that's going to come back, gentlemen. It's like a boomerang. Sometimes it'll hit you in the side of the head and you can't believe somebody said that. And then you realize their experience level. And the whole take on it is, listen, if the insurance company doesn't like the wording direct physical damage, then change it. It has to be a hit as big as a nickel. Because you're paying for that. So it's really hard because it's contradictory to the law of nature. You tell somebody you're paying for this, but then you want to constantly keep redefining it. It's pretty doublespeak. It's pretty, it's kind of out there to me.
Hey, Phil, you know, another thing is that the insurance companies write that policy, right? So in writing that policy, you know, they make attempts and their attorneys make attempts to make it work on their side. You know, I mean, let's say an air hawk or an air vent, the turtle vent that you're putting on your roof. You know, oh, well, it has to be 50% of them that are damaged before we're going to replace any of them. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, but
you know?
where's that in the policy?
It's not.
I don't think, you know, I think a hit as big as a nickel would work because a nickel doesn't change. The size of a nickel is the same every time.
Well, I don't know. They might try to define a nickel the size of a quarter down the road.
Okay, but at this point, if we're working with a nickel, nothing changes, so that's a rule that has to be followed. Right now, there is no rule that has to be followed.
No, it's interesting in life. Just jump to something. I always wondered, like, how come a 2x4 is only 1.5 inches thick? It baffles my mind. And some old timers said, oh, well, they used to be 2 inches thick. And so you can actually buy real 2x4s that are 2 inches thick. Because if you're ever in older houses, I had a house up in Jensen Beach, Florida, and I was working at these great studs. But they're this old, deep, rich wood, 2 inches thick. And the termites, don't quote me, but I think it was cypress. I was like, how are you building with wood in Florida? Oh, it's cypress. It's really hard. And so they wouldn't get termites in that wood or carpenter ants because the wood was so hard. Other woods would.
Well, I'm from back east. Everything back east is a Coke, not a soda. So everything is a 2x4 now, too.
So I just find it fascinating. So they, you know, so you think you're buying a 2x4, but go measure it. And it's not. And so that fascinates me. And that's kind of what's going on in the world these days. Whether it's some of the things in the PC movement I agree with, a lot I don't these days. I'm like, hey, it is what it is, you know. And you get in these determinations and you're looking at stuff with these engineers with all these great degrees. And one of the scariest things for me is going to select an umpire in court during the appraisal process. And the judge makes a decision. And the judge is like, oh, look at this resume. This guy's with such and such. He's worked for this insurance company. He's done this. He's written these papers. And I start to shake because I know that particular engineer is strictly working for the insurance industry or primarily work for the insurance. I know I'm not going to get a shake. I know that he was indoctrinated, you know. My sister, example, she's a pretty prominent doctor, and I'm a roofer. And she is, we have these debates, and like, we talk about nutrition. So I used to be a fanatic about nutrition. I happened to break my back a year and a half ago and got to get my butt back in shape. I actually rolled a bobcat down a mountain. And we will talk about all the stuff. I'll talk to these doctors, and it's fascinating. My sister spent less than a day, she admits, studying preventative medicine and nutrition. And she was in school forever because she became a specialized surgeon. And so what you learn and you take from some of this stuff is you really got to be looking out for yourself. You know, if I got in a car accident, that'd be like the person in the car accident saying, hey, well, why don't we share the same attorney? It doesn't make sense to me. So whether I'm on the side of the insurance, which I have no problem working for in the future, but I have my moral ethics. I want an independent inspector, and I want to pay what's real. The beautiful thing is that I have a huge experience background, as you guys do, so I know right off the hop if it's damaged or not. I don't really care what the experts say. Sure, I'll read their reports, tear them apart. And we'll turn it back to you guys. 7 minutes. You're up, Mike.
No, I am in agreement with you, and getting back to these estimates, Phil, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, we have to hire expertise, I mean, and that's
Let's ask
how we
this.
get them by.
Do you think the average adjuster knows what he's doing in writing a construction estimate?
No.
No.
Do you think the average adjuster has built a house?
No.
No.
Most of these, even some of the roofing contractors, in saying this, they're not general contractors. A lot of them have a Class 2 roofing license. So, even the education on those, we try to, that's why we have this, is trying to educate not only our roofing friends, but also even more, we want to guide and direct and to show the consumer, whether it be commercial or residential, this is the way to go and this is why.
A really good rule of thumb I always use when I use it with experts, I use it myself to win a lot of projects, is I have a CV, which is just a real fancy word for a resume. I think I can never say curriculum vitae or vitae curriculum. The whole basis of that resume is it's really a valuable document. So when I have other engineers come, I want to see the resume. I want to see their CV. I want to know what they did. It's very easy to become an insurance adjuster. Actually, the state is not licensed right now for regular insurance adjusters, however it is for public adjusters.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Okay, that's a whole show. Chip, we're going to let Chip talk about that a little bit today because he just jumped in there. That's a problem. And I actually, being on both sides of the fence, I'm one of the guys sitting in the room that's played on both sides of the fence. I think it's an absolute problem. And I think it's very experienced. You look at that CV. So if you take the two guys sitting at the table, there's very lengthy resumes here. Some of these guys are builders. They've put on the roofs themselves. They've been doing it forever. They know what they're doing. Adjusters is the same thing. Ask your own insurance adjuster, hey, can I see your CV? What kind of construction experience do you have? I just finished working with the lead guy of an insurance company who admitted to me last year. He goes, dude, I just renovated my condo. He's like in Northern California. And I said, yeah. And he goes, I've been in this business 27 years. I said, yeah. And he goes, it's unbelievable. My estimate was for $130,000. It went $205,000. And I can't believe I learned more doing my own condo than all my years doing these. He's looked at tens of thousands of claims and argued, personally argued with me on claims and what it takes.
He's going to be fired.
Yeah, he's going to be fired now because he's going to be too honorable. So what actually goes into a claim, what a contractor goes through, when you see hard costs and you think a contractor is making 50%, it's a fallacy. He's driven his truck to 10 jobs. He's gas. He's got flats. He's got transmission blows, liability insurance, everything you can imagine. It isn't. That's why one of the studies out there is 87. I saw one at 92% of roofers go to business in 5 years, and another one 75% of contractors. It's like similar to the restaurant business. It's a high turnover. And that's why you get all these discrepancies. If you got guys who can't stay in business for a really, really long time, how do you know they're writing you a really good estimate or doing a really good job? How do you know that insurance adjuster has the knowledge to really put together a thorough estimate?
Phil, I kind of feel that you could almost send every single scope or insurance paperwork that the insurance give you to a public adjuster or to go into appraisal. I mean, they're missing that much, How can they miss that much? It's like it's almost not, I don't know, it's not true and honest.
I like the waste thing. They're taking ridge cap and they're taking starter out because they're saying they're adding it to the waste. I just wrote a letter to one saying waste plus trash equals garbage. You can't use the stuff you're throwing in your trailer on the roof. If you take 3 squares of waste away from me to make it ridge, I'm going to be short. If you don't give me ridge, I'm not going to have ridge. If you take my field shingles away to make ridge, I'm going to be short. You cannot stretch material. You've never been able to do it.
This is a fascinating point that Chip brings up. Since I've worked on the roof since I was 13 years old, got a nail through my hand, 2 broken heels, many battle scars. Chip brings up a fascinating point. There's this old rule of thumb on a gable roof, 10% waste, 15% on a hip, and it's just a simple rule. They want all the contractors to adhere to this rule, yet that rule was designed on a 3-tab shingle. So on a 3-tab shingle, you used to be able to use a reverse starter under the shingles at the bottom, and you could cut it up, and you could salvage a lot more of that when you're doing 3-tab. But who's doing 3-tab shingles anymore?
Nobody.
And the whole thing with laminate is you can't cut it for the ridge cap and bend it over the roof. And you're going to see a lot of contractors doing that now. The problem being when you do that, and it's primary residential they're doing it, is it's going to delaminate. This is a glued together shingle meant to lay flat. So Chip's bringing up a really valuable point. They're using this old rule of thumb that doesn't apply to what 98% of the new shingle roofs are that are going on. It can't apply.
Even with the 3-tab shingle, though, if you're taking the waste from the roof and using it for ridge and starters, you've just cut up 2 squares of the field shingles. You are going to be
Right.
2 squares short. So if you are taking my waste and using it for part of the roof, you have just instructed me to use garbage in your roof.
Right.
Just to finish.
And so Chip brings up another good point there about the field shingles and about calculations.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's an uphill battle. And how do you fight with the insurance on that? A lot of times I supplement, or, a lot of times I'll have like 15 valleys in a big cut-up residential house, a big boxed up house, and they're sitting there saying, 15%. And I'm like, no, this roof, if you want to go by just a quick rule of thumb waste factor, I'm at about 23%. And I'll be like, well, how are you at that? And I'll be like, well, I'm adding like 0.5% for every valley over about 4 or 5. It doesn't cut it, guys. And they want to sit there and argue. And I'll go to this adjuster. How many roofs did you put on with your hands? Well, no, this is just the rule. Well, who told you that? The insurance company. I said, well, how do they know? Well, they've done all the research, I assume. I said, do you know? I said, you're talking to guys. Like, we've got guys sitting here at the table that actually physically roofed. And that's a really big deal. And you know why for the consumer that's a big deal? Because you got guys here that understand how the roof goes on. And so therefore, you can understand the damage better.
I was around since before nail guns.
Chip was around since before nail guns. I came in when some guys were still hand nailing. I had one guy hand nailing on one of my crews 30 years ago. And it's incredible. He's as fast as me on the nail gun, but I'm not as fast as him reverse.